Hey, what's going on, guys? Just wanted to do a quick update on the Q4 earnings. You've probably seen some of this already. I'm like a day behind, but I've been a ghost on here. Just been doing a ton of work travel lately, but I just got back in yesterday, so wanted to do kind of a quick update on here. But they killed it on Q4 earnings. I talked about it in the last video, but they sandbagged a lot of these numbers. So we kind of expected beats, which they did. But overall, it was good news. The stock price went up, then it dipped back down. Typical sell off after Fubo earnings. But we don't care about that. If we're long on it, it doesn't matter. You can add more shares. Um, basically, they had pretty big growth. Their subscribers came in at 1.62 million and 29% year over year revenue growth. They're projecting things a bit higher. I'll get into that in a second here. But basically, they came in with 1.62 million paid subscribers, up 12% year over year. That was part of the. It would typically be probably closer to 20%, but just due to the what was it last year? World Cup. That's it. Um, they were a bit higher last year, so this makes sense. Still double digit growth. It's pretty good. 402 million in total revenue, which is awesome to see them break the $400 million mark. I think their total revenue was like 410 once you include the rest of the world. Yeah, the 8 million. Yeah, so they came in 410, which is really good to see. 29% year over year. Ad revenue, that was huge. I always talk about it in all these videos, subscriber growth and ad revenue, which was interesting. They came in at 38.6 million, up 15% year over year. I thought it was interesting because Q3, they were, for Q3 earnings, I think they were like 32, 33 million, somewhere around there. And they were messaging that Q4 would be weaker. And so I was kind of thinking in the upper 20s, 28, 27 million, something like that. The fact that this one blew me away, that they were like 10 million higher than I expected. So that's great news. 38.6 million. And for the full year, it grew to 114 million, up 14%, despite an overall challenged ad market in 2023. Yep. And this will be, we're going into a heavy political season, so political ad spend should be going up. That should be a really good number in the coming year, I would think. But we'll kind of see how that plays out. But that's, they really, really need to increase that ad revenue going forward. They're making good progress on it. They just need to keep executing on that. They achieved an all-time high of 86.65 for their ARPU, the average revenue per user, up 15%. And that doesn't even include the price hikes they had like a month ago. I think it was $5 on each tier plus another dollar on the RSN. So that's another $6. I mean, that's going to be over 90 pretty soon here, which is great news. But yeah, they achieved 10% gross margin, representing 888 basis point year over year improvement. That's going to continue to get better as they increase their ARPU, assuming they don't have huge increases in their programming costs. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But the fact, I think they were 8% in Q3. So to see 10%, they're moving in the right direction. But they can't just keep having price hikes across the board. Eventually, that's gonna punish them. But that's a lot of that. Honestly, comes back to their lawsuit, which I'm gonna get into that a little more in another video. I'm just kind of catching up from the last couple weeks, so sorry about that. But that'll be, however that plays out. Could be a couple positive catalysts out of that, but I'll get to it later. Rest of world, I don't even really know what they're doing with this business, what the plan is here. It's tiny. I don't know what their plan is here. Honestly, they could probably just sell it and use that cash for something else. But I don't know. we'll see what. I mean, I assume it's driving some sort of synergies across the organization. I'm just really not sure. But we'll have to see how that looks. But that was 8.4 million of total revenue, up 18% year over year. 406,000 paid subscribers, down 3% year over year. Yeah, so that business is, I mean, looks like they've had some price increases to increase revenue, but they're down on a subscriber count. So yeah, that one I'm just not sure about. ARPU was 681, so it's a really cheap service, up 12%. Blah blah blah. Achieved improvement in net loss of 25 million for the quarter, and 19 of that was improvement in net cash for operating activities. They achieved a $15 million improvement in free cash flow and a $25 million improvement in adjusted EBITDA when compared to the fourth quarter of 2022. So they're making progress. And the thing, I guess we can kind of jump to it now. But basically, they're sitting on 251 million in cash. They're still reiterating the 2025 positive cash flow goal. A lot of this could change, just if they get reach new terms with this lawsuit. That could happen far sooner. But we're just gonna have to wait and see how that looks. But going into their guidance for 2024. Q1, they're forecasting 1.415 to 1.435 million paid subscribers. They typically have that bit of churn in the first part of the year. I think they're trying to reduce that. It seems like they're getting more creative with their plans. I saw somebody on X posting about how Fubo recommended they get rid of their Sports Plus package. So I think they're just trying to get creative with saying like, hey, save some money in the meantime instead of pausing or canceling your plan. Stay with it, but just get rid of the sports package. So it seems like they're trying to get a little more creative, just to reduce that churn a little bit. So for the rest of Q1, they're looking at 365 to 375 million in total revenue, 17% growth. That's good. For the full year, they're guiding 1.665 to 1.685 million paid subscribers. That's, they typically, I said it before, they sandbag these numbers. Hopefully they're over 1.7 million to, in the $1.8 million range. My guess is they're, with their pressure on profitability, they're probably sacrificing some of the top line growth, and so they should be in the 1.7 to 1.8, I'd think. But that's part of it, is they're just reducing costs in other areas, which will, if it's reduced marketing costs and things like that, they might not add as many subs and therefore not have as good of revenue. So that's my guess, is they're focused on profitability. They're making good progress on it. We'll just have to see what it looks like. Let's see. 1.5 to 1.525 billion in total revenue, 13% growth. They're still, I'd like to see that closer to 20% or higher. They posted the 29% for this year. They had some price increases and things like that, so they're not going to see the same. But we'll kind of have to keep an eye on that. That was the most. David went into a long thing on the lawsuit, and that his messaging could have been a lot better with just how he kind of addressed it. He seemed, his messaging almost seemed bearish on it. But then also separately, he said, we're still on track for our profitability goals, things like that. So I think the message just focused more on the bad news of it, rather than the good news, because the fact that he's still confident in their 2025 positive cash flow goal. I think his messaging just could have been better with how he kind of packaged that up and explained it. But that lawsuit's gonna define a lot. It could, if they get paid damages, things like that, it could really help their balance sheet. They could get to profitability much faster if they can negotiate lower costs for broadcasting, things like that. There's a lot that can come out of there. I'm still bullish on this. I think based on their price now, I mean, what are they? Based on their market cap is 568 million. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer at this price. Not financial advice, but I added like another 1,200 shares this week, sitting on like 106,000 shares total, I think. But I'm not concerned. I'm just able to add more for cheaper at this point. I think they will get out of this $2 zone at some point, but we'll just kind of have to see what kind of catalysts happen in the meantime. But no, I think it's all good news. They're just really need to work on some of that messaging and things like that. So that's pretty much the Q4 earnings. I'll deep dive into it a little more and see what nuggets I can pull out of their call. Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to go into before I close out here. If you go on Fintel, get out of here. Institutional ownership, they're up to almost 42% now. This was look at this chart. A ton of ads. I mean, the institutional owners are really, in the last 6 months, they've really been going pretty hard in the paint for buying up more shares. So this is good news. I mean, it could be one of those things. Fubo really struggles to get out of this zone, but I think just at their price, it's kind of a no-brainer to jump in on this for a lot of them. I think BlackRock and Vanguard were the top owners. Yep, 24 million for BlackRock, 22 million for Vanguard. But just to see them continuing to add, they have a ton of data here on the Fintel site. I'm not going to go into all of it, but just the fact that we're seeing this big increase of institutional ownership, that's what they need. But we'll just continue to kind of track that as we keep going. But that's it. Feel free, please, if you're not subscribed already, it'd be a huge help if you subscribe, comment on here. If there's any other topics you kind of want to dig into, we can do that. But it really helps if you do that. But thanks for watching, and see ya.